In fact, J.P. Morgan noted that this new bank term funding program is likely to be too big, and that could be an understatement, because it can inject up to $2 trillion, $2 trillion in funds into the banking system. So that presents a paradox for the Federal Reserve, which, of course, on one hand, they're trying to slow down the economy with rate hikes and quantitative tightening. But what happens with this? What if this is quantitative easing? It's crazy. It's so crazy. So it's just good. It's par for the course. 2023 has been a year of crazy. I want to bring in now Great Hill Capital Chairman Thomas Hayes. And, I saw your note, and this new program, you said if this had been in place, this new bank term funding program, if it was in place, let's say, a couple of weeks ago, we wouldn't have had the failures at Silicon Valley Bank and some of the others. But what about the notion that it's a lot of money out there and it could actually backfire?
Yeah, well, the Fed basically created this. So they did all the bond buying, which forced the banks out on the risk curve to buy 5.7-year duration. And then they blew them up with the quantitative tightening, the steepest tightening in the history of the Federal Reserve. So it's kind of like an insurance company. They sell you a policy on your home, then they burn down your home, and then they say, Charles, what did you do to your home, before they pay you out? So the tightening cycle is basically over. And to your point, this $2 trillion facility, had it been in place, if they could borrow against the par value of their bonds,
right,
we wouldn't have had this situation last week. It certainly was mismanaged. They could have managed the duration better, but this is going to create a lot of stability. The problem you have now, Charles, is if you're a small businessman and you've got $1 million in your checking account and there's not an explicit backstop on those deposits now, you're going to see a lot of flows into the bigger banks.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm going to get more into that later, because something Janet Yellen said today makes that even worse, to your point. About a week ago, last week, The Economist had a pretty good article. The Federal Reserve's $2.5 trillion question upon which the future monetary policy rests. And essentially they're saying, can they suck out $2.5 trillion from the economy and nobody notices? You actually believe this is where the Fed's been making a mistake. Instead of hiking rates, they should have been focused more on this.
No question. We're ending the tightening cycle in the next week or so, and we still have $8.3 trillion on the balance sheet, up from $4 trillion. So what we've been saying for many months is that they should have gone more moderately on the rate hikes, maybe stop around 3.5, but they could have brought that balance sheet down by a few $1 trillion, so we've got some bullets for the next crisis.
It's just really amazing. If you think it's going to take a few years to get to your target, right? I mean, why are you clobbering the economy so hard at the very beginning? All right, let's talk about some of the things you like, because speaking of banks, you're buying a bank right now.
Yeah, we bought Bank of America yesterday. It's trading below book, trading at 8 times forward, and they're going to be a beneficiary of some of these deposits. Until there's an explicit guarantee for these business people that have larger than insured deposits, we're going to see more and more flows into the big banks, so we like Bank of America. I
got to tell you, it's so crazy. I should have put a screen up for Bank of America, Chase. What they're giving savers and depositors is squat.
Right.
Squat. Imagine you leave us a community bank where you're getting a pretty hefty, nice return because of the safety of these banks, and they're just taking advantage of you. All right, you got a couple other ideas you like as well.
Yeah, I think Amazon is a no-brainer. As yields come down now that we're basically towards the end of the tightening cycle, we like Amazon. You can buy it at 2018 prices. They've tripled the AWS. They've tripled the ad business. They've doubled the e-commerce business. They've increased operating cash flow by 50%, and you can buy it for the same price. We like Google. They're trading at 15.2 times next year's earnings. 20% earnings growth. They've got all the AI that Amazon does, that Microsoft does. It's just not.
So you're not worried about being a Google killer?
No, not at all, not at all. And they've got all the AI, and it's a high quality business at a reasonable price.
Right.
And finally, I like PayPal, which has been left for dead. It's trading at 13 times forward earnings. They've been compounding capital at mid-teens for the last 5 years. We think now management, you've got some stability. Even if margins compress a little bit, the nominal value of that ticket with inflation at 3, 4, 5% is going to continue to grow, so we like that.
I tell you, man, you're a fresh thinker and you got great ideas, and I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Thomas.
Thanks for having me, Charles.
All right, folks. Now, my next guest says that markets are